Loftus Hall, a mansion in Ireland's County Wexford, has long been considered the country's most haunted house. The estate has a legendary centuries-old history of paranormal activity. The most famous story is that in 1765 a mysterious man came to call on the daughter of the house and play a card of games with her. At one point she bent down to pick up a card that had fallen on the floor and discovered that her guest had a cloven hoof. Now many people who visit Loftus Hall believe it's haunted by the devil himself, and also haunted by the ghost of Anne Tottingham. The woman who played cards went insane, refused to eat or drink and died not long after her encounter. If you're brave enough to give Loftus Hall a try, be on the lookout for one famous design quirk. The story has it that after young Anne Tottingham confronted her visitor about the cloven hoof, he immediately zoomed upward, poking a hole in the roof, and flew away. Many guests at the house report seeing a section of the ceiling that doesn't match up with the rest, and believe that's where attempts have been made to patch up the hole. And although it has been hundreds of years since Anne's death, the legends around both her and Loftus Hall continue. The house has changed hands many times over the years, and the spooky factor multiplied in 2014 when a man visiting the estate snapped a photo of what he believed could be a ghostly apparition. The Langham Hotel in London is a luxurious 5-star hotel, often referred to as the original Grand Hotel, but in it lies a darker secret. The Langham is thought to be one of the most haunted hotels in all of London. The hotel was first built in 1865, and with nearly 500 rooms and suites, it's really not surprising that a number of ghosts have been seen regularly at the hotel. The paranormal activity at the hotel became apparent when it was owned by the BBC, when it was discovered that there was at least 5 ghosts that made a regular appearance at the hotel. The most active of the ghosts at the hotel is said to be that of a German prince, who was thought to have met his death when he threw himself out of the window of an upper story room. Guests have seen his ghostly form move through walls and closed doors, and he is often accompanied by a sudden drop in temperature. Room 333 is supposed to be the most haunted. Ghoststory.co.uk shared this story. In this room, a BBC newscaster woke up to see a fluorescent ball of light which slowly took a human form. The apparition hovered 2 feet above the floor. With the lower portion of its legs missing, it was dressed in Victorian evening wear. The announcer tried to communicate with the ghost, asking what it wanted. The spirit slowly moved towards the newscaster's arms. The announcer fled in distress to the safety of one of his co-workers and told them about his encounter. A colleague accompanied him back to his room. The ghost was still there when they entered, but apparently less visible and less threatening before slowly fading away. Other BBC staff reported seeing the apparition in the same room. Most recently, during the England cricket team's stay at the hotel, reports surfaced that some of the members of the team were having trouble sleeping in the rooms, with some wives refusing to even stay in the hotel. England's bowler Stuart Broad recounts one experience during his stay that forced him to move rooms. He said the following: "It was so hot in the room I just couldn't sleep. All of a sudden the taps in the bathroom came on for no reason. I turned on the lights and the taps turned themselves off. Then when I turned the lights off again, the taps came on. It was really weird. It really freaked me out and I ended up asking to move rooms." Clinton Road in New Jersey has no shortage of terrifying tales. Phantom headlights are said to come out of nowhere and follow drivers dangerously close, then disappear into thin air. There are stories of an abandoned circus zoo that got involved with crossbreeding, resulting in a possessed albino deer. Then there's Ghost Boy Bridge. According to the stories, a little boy drowned there years ago, and if you throw a coin over the bridge he'll throw one back. It should be noted there is more than one bridge located on Clinton Road, and nobody knows for sure which one the Ghost Boy supposedly hangs out beneath. A second bridge is located several miles to the south of Dead Man's Curve, just above the old stone iron furnace. This deserted and dangerous road located off Route 23 in West Milford has no homes along the road, and no connecting roads. Clinton Road is very curvy and keeps winding around beneath the bodies of water. It's gained notoriety over the years as an area rife with many legends of paranormal occurrences, such as sightings of ghosts, strange creatures and gathering of witches. Mysterious figures can be seen when driving on this road, and many have said they feel uneasy while driving on it. Shadow people are also a common sight on this road. They're typically seen moving at night in the most common form of ghost that people witness. Shadow people often flee in the presence of people in physical bodies, especially if they realise they've been detected, and are often seen out of the corner of one's eye. This is common on this road. One witness said they was driving on the road and witnessed two shadow figures. As they slowed down to get a better look, they vanished. The witness described them as hovering black masses. The road is also notorious for having the country's longest traffic light wait. This occurs at a double intersection where Route 23 crosses the road. The two lights can cause motorists to wait for 5 minutes in total. Not ideal when you're on one of America's most haunted roads. The haunted Plymouth Lighthouse was originally built in 1769, at the mouth of Plymouth Bay in Massachusetts. The original structure had 2 towers lit with oil lamps, being built on the property of its eventual lighthouse keepers, John and Hannah Thomas. Hannah became a very capable lighthouse keeper herself, as John went off to the Revolutionary War and was killed in battle. In fact, she became the first woman lighthouse keeper in America. Some believe Hannah still resides at the location today, even though the original Plymouth Lighthouse was lost to fire and rebuilt in 1803. 1843 saw both towers reconstructed, and by 1924 the northwest tower was removed, as it was no longer needed. The haunted Plymouth Lighthouse South Tower has continued to operate since that time, but today is automated. However, in 1998, the lighthouse had to be moved due to fear of losing the structure due to erosion. A professional lighthouse photographer and his wife decided to stay the night at the haunted location, choosing to sleep in a house adjacent to the light. He awakened in the night to find the upper half of a woman floating above his sleeping wife, and staring at her. The apparition was in period dress and had long dark flowing hair. Some believe this could have been Hannah. Woodchester Mansion is a unique and amazing Grade 1 listed Victorian Gothic house hidden in the Cotswold Valley. It's an unfinished masterpiece. Building started about 1857, but stopped in the mid-1860s, so floors and ceilings are missing. Walls are also not plastered and windows are unglazed. The building itself was commissioned by William Lee, who was a Freemason. He brought the previous building Spring Park and decided to demolish it, and build Woodchester Mansion over its foundations. William's cash ran out before the building was finished and he passed away in 1873. It remained in the Lee family until 1938 when the estate was sold. In the 1940s, American and Canadian forces were stationed here until the end of the war. It now belongs to the Woodchester Trust, who are trying to return it to its original state. According to legend, Sir Rupert de Langsley once owned the estate. Several locals have reported seeing a headless horseman, believed to be Sir Rupert, near one of the park lakes. A coffin has also been observed hovering above one of the estate lakes. Most recently in February 2004 and September 2005, saw sightings of a black dog inside the mansion itself, which appeared to coincide with the deaths of individuals closely associated with the building. In 1902, a local vicar saw a strange apparition at the gates to the mansion. Needless to say, he never returned to the building again. A few years later, a phantom horseman was also seen on the drive dressed in Civil War clothing, but it's the mansion itself that is the epicenter of the haunting. As you step in through the front door, you find yourself suddenly transported back to late 1800s, standing amidst what is effectively a Victorian building site. But as soon as you've taken in the amazing sight of fireplaces suspended in mid-air, doorways leading nowhere and the strange floor, you have to wonder why the building was never finished. Some of the rooms still have the abandoned workmen's tools and equipment. During the building work there were 7 deaths. The mansion has its very own chapel lit by 2 large stained glass windows. One of the more intriguing stories surrounding the chapel involves the apparent satanic rituals, which is said to have taken place during the 1980s. How true these stories are is difficult to say. To the left of the main chapel, besides the corridor, which leads away towards what would have been the servants' quarters, there is a small private chapel intended for Lee's personal use. A short arched passageway connects these 2 rooms. On more than one occasion, visitors to the chapel have witnessed the ghost of a small man standing in the doorway. This figure stands gazing up at the two huge stained glass windows, as if concerned for their own poor state of repair, as most of the glass panels are now missing or cracked. Guests and visitors have also reported seeing stones and other bits of masonry being thrown across the room. Moving on from the main chapel, we enter a corridor which leads to a smaller chapel. This corridor has been the location of a number of sightings of an unknown tall man. This strange figure has been spotted standing at the door that leads to the laundry room. This figure does not simply remain standing in one area, but has been seen walking along the corridor. In the kitchen, if you listen closely, you might catch the sound of a woman's voice singing an Irish folk song. As Woodchester was never occupied for any length of time, it would never have had any stuff that could have returned in spirit. Many of the spirits residing at Woodchester are thought to be linked to the previous resident's Spring Park. It's known that Woodchester's kitchen occupies the same spot as the previous building. It's worth noting that the floor of the kitchen seems to be much older than the building itself. In the short passageway between the two rooms, the floor is worn and pitted, as if it's experienced centuries of use. The spirit of a young girl has been seen on numerous occasions playing and running up and down the stairs. This staircase on the first floor is positioned almost exactly where Spring Park stairs once stood, so it's possible that the girl's spirit could be from that period too. Once you reach the first floor landing and look to your right, you may spot either one or two other ghosts who have been spotted. The first ghost is that of a man whom little is known, except that he seems to be aware of the person viewing him. The second is a much smaller man, usually dressed all in black and wearing a hat. Walking back along the corridor occupied by the ghost of an unknown man, we find ourselves heading for what has become known as the World War II section. US and Canadian soldiers once occupied this part of the mansion during the Second World War. Some of the lakes at Woodchester Park were used for training in preparation for the D-Day landings, and it was during these exercises that tragedy struck. Whilst testing out the strength of a pontoon bridge built across one of the lakes, the bridge collapsed and a tank with up to 20 soldiers fell into the lake. Those who went in were killed or either crushed by the fall of the tank, or parts of the bridge that crashed down on top of them. The Woodchester Park Angel was said to have appeared the night before at the same location as the incident. As well as sensing the presence of people in military uniform, music from the 1940s has also been heard. Woodchester Mansion's cellar is considered by many to be the most haunted part of the building. The high vaulted ceiling and lack of light gives the cellar a daunting atmosphere. Behind the many and varied manifestations that occurred in the cellar, there seems to lurk one powerful and possibly demonic presence. On a number of occasions, a figure often described as a giant black mass has been seen. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.